Hi, I'm Dr. Pachenik. Today I want to talk about how Japan went from a competitor with China to a partner. Now, that was a slight announcement which really didn't signify very much to most people, but to me it signified a lot. What Japan was really doing in the guise of Prime Minister Abe was saying, we cannot trust Trump very well. And because we cannot trust him, we have to ally ourselves with China. And in doing so, we're going to forgive China's multi-billion-dollar debt that we were paying them in the guise of a development grant, but it was really blood money for the atrocities that Japan created against China. Let me be a little more specific. Historically, Japan doesn't want to discuss the fact that when they invaded Manchuria and made it Manchukoo, China, they in fact slaughtered 1 to 3 million Chinese using biological weapons. Now, when I say biological weapons, I mean anthrax, botulism, all the weapons that were literally forbidden by the United Nations and by the agreement of all the fighting parties. Even Hitler would not use biological weapons. But the Japanese profited from that. In particular, Abe's grandfather. Thanks to one of my contributors, I learned that Abe's grandfather made a fortune getting donations from Japanese companies, having been corrupt during the occupation of Manchukoo, and subsequently their wealth grew and grew so that Abe could become prime minister. But that was not the only atrocity the Japanese committed against the Chinese. In 1937, the Japanese army decided that they would have a contest. And within 3 weeks, they wanted to see which one of their soldiers could kill the most number of children, men, and women in Nanjing. And that was called the Rape of Nanjing. If you ever go to China and you go to Nanjing, you will see their comparable Holocaust museum, where over 300,000 men, women, and children were slaughtered with swords because it was a contest to see how effective these Japanese soldiers could be and how brutal they could be without any mercy. That is called the Rape of Nanjing. China and Japan have never come to terms over that issue. And when I was in Nanjing, guess what I saw? I saw exactly the culprit that I wrote about in Pax Pacifica. Through all my books, I designated Emperor Hirohito as the major culprit for creating biological warfare and agreeing to the Rape of Nanjing. Now, most Japanese would not accept that accusation. So what happened is I was thrown out of Japan, and so was Pax Pacifica. So it could no longer remain there. And the accusation that Emperor Hirohito, whom the Japanese claim was nothing more than a biologist who loved butterflies, was really in charge of what happened. It turned out General Douglas MacArthur didn't want to implicate Hirohito because he wanted to have a smooth transition in the post-World War II management of Japan. But the Russians never stopped slaughtering the Japanese. Even after the dropping of bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, General Zhukov sent thousands of Soviet soldiers over the borders into Manchuria to slaughter the Japanese until they stopped their aggression. So let me remind you, there is no way the Japanese have ever apologized for their atrocities that they committed in World War II. And in the words of Emperor Hirohito, he said, this war was not good for Japan. And in the words of our great President Trump, he said, the only thing I respect about Japan is the little bowing. I do not respect the rest. Thank you and good night.